I'll call you right back podcast. That's definitely perfect. So we're recording.
Cool.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a hectic last few weeks. How was your holidays?
Holidays with the family. I'll leave it at that. Not bad, but
always interesting
it is
for
what
sure.
it is.
So, how's things going now? Just
Shit,
moved
man.
into a new spot. Looks pretty cool in here. It's
Thanks,
a good
man.
vibe.
Yeah, dude, loving it. Happy to be back in the city, living on my own again, getting my life together.
Growing up.
Yeah,
growing
growing
into
up.
a
You know,
man.
trying to be a 24-year-old adult.
Yeah.
Finally trying to get the odds and ends of my life tied together.
Well, that's what's up. I mean, seems you had a busy last couple year and a half. So
Definitely.
what? So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me who you play for and a little background of the band.
Cool. Well, I'm Zach. I play guitar for a band called Like Moths to Flames. Been touring with them for about a year and a half. Yeah, I don't...
And how's it going?
Shit, it's going awesome, dude. I couldn't be happier. I loved the band before I even got to join them, so it's a really cool experience to actually be on that team. You know, it's like, I don't know, the team you're rooting for wants you to be on their team, so it's definitely cool to actually be in the industry on that level, you know?
For
Doing
sure.
something on that level.
So before we get too into that, let's start from the beginning. Like, how did you get into music?
Dude, I came out of the womb loving music, man. Like, ever since I was a kid, I've always just been listening to shit. I loved grunge back in the day, like Nirvana, Blink-182, pop punk stuff. I listened to 105.9 The X growing up, so everything on there, like Third Eye Blind, like, you know what they play on there.
Yeah, for sure.
all that
Did
kind
your
of stuff,
parents
90s
get you
stuff.
into it? Like, were
My
your
mom
parents
always
real
had it
heavy
on.
into it?
My mom just had it on the radio growing up, so I'm not sure if like she got me into it per se, but
Yeah.
you know, it was always on. She listened to, you know, hippie stuff growing up, like the Doors, the Beatles. So I also
same
was,
shit all of
you
our
know, exposed
parents
to that-
listened to.
Yeah, exposed to that kind of music growing up. So I liked that a little bit as I got older, but definitely all the '90s stuff we had playing on the X definitely jump started my love for music for sure, and then it just skyrocketed once I found bands like Blink-182 and
Absolutely, the originals.
oh yeah, the OGs.
So how did you get into wanting to play an instrument?
Honestly, just my love for music just kept going. I just always wanted to do something in that realm. And one day, my mom just said, "Hey, do you want to take guitar lessons?" I think she knew. She's a substitute teacher, so I think she knew a student or something. And a parent had told her that her son took lessons or something like that and recommended a shop across the river from where we lived. And so started taking lessons there. I think I was about 8 years old or so, second grade.
That's
So,
what's up. Start 'em young.
Yeah, dude.
So what was the first type of guitar you had? Do you remember?
First guitar I got was this little dinky, I don't even know what brand it was. It was like a child-size acoustic guitar. It didn't even have like inlays on the fretboards, so we took like little star stickers and put them on the frets to make it act, so you could see like where you're playing and stuff.
That's sick.
It was like an $80 guitar. We got it like the day I went to the shop and signed up for lessons and whatnot.
Yeah, you got to make it work.
Yeah.
So you started taking guitar lessons, and how long did you take guitar lessons?
Shit, man. I'd say at least 2 to 3 years. My memory's pretty shot from back then, but I went for a while. I learned how to read music. I learned some of the theory behind it and all that. But at a certain point, I was just going there, and like my teachers helped me learn songs, and he's like, "All right, you don't need to be coming here anymore. We're not really doing anything productive or new. Just take a break. If you want to come back, come back." And once I stopped going, I probably was, I'd say in like 5th grade, maybe 6th if I'm pushing it.
So
But
would you say you were a little bit more ahead of the game as picking things up with guitar? Like you were a little bit more advanced, or did it take you a long time to catch on? Or
I'd say I was a little bit ahead of the game with picking onto it pretty quick. The only thing is all the theory and all like the knowledge that stuck with how to read stuff went out the door. I lost it all after a while because I didn't keep up with it. Like I was a lazy kid. I didn't give a shit about that. I just wanted to play. I just wanted to shred. I just wanted to try and write my own music, or just try and like learn this song from, you know, Blink, or learn this song from Taking Back Sunday or so and so.
Yeah, that was my next question. So like what bands did you start getting into pretty heavy whenever you were younger?
Dude, I have to look at some of these records. There's too many bands.
Yeah, so we're checking out your record collection right now.
I mentioned Blink a bunch.
Yeah, I see Blink-182 already.
Shit. I like a lot of the emo bands that came out of that era, like Senses Fail, The Used, Taking Back Sunday, Boxcar Racer.
Senses Fail will always be one of my favorites.
Same.
I see that banner you have on your wall. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Thursday was another big one. Basically, a lot of the bands on like Victory from like the early 2000s era. Silverstein, obviously. Damn, I don't even know. So many bands. And then obviously from there, it started to evolve into, heavier stuff.
Spiderweb off.
Yeah, it started to spiderweb
genres
off.
and
definitely
different types of sounds. So when you listen to all that old music, do you have like you have a pretty wide variety of things that you listen to still?
I definitely still dive into all the old stuff I used to listen to back in the day. Sometimes it's harder for me to find new stuff just because some of the stuff I grew up listening to is such a cult classic to me that I think some of the newer stuff doesn't stand up to it on a timeless
For sure, dude.
scale.
It has like the nostalgia feel to it that like even if it wasn't technically as advanced as like the new shit, it's still like we grew up on that. So that was like what you built your hopes and dreams off of and everything. Like
exactly.
Those are the soundtracks of your life. It's like you hear a song and like it immediately puts me back to like where I was, like what grade I was in, like what we were doing around that time. So like you being into music and everything like that, you grew up with people who were also into music, I'm sure. And eventually I know you started to get into local bands.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Damn. All right. Well,
like how old were you whenever you first started getting into it? Because obviously the people that are listening might not know. Me and you have definitely known each other for a long time.
well
I knew
over
you
a decade at this point.
Absolutely. So I knew you whenever you were just a little babe.
Yeah.
And every one of our other friends have been pretty involved with the music scene as well. So you were like the young one
runt
in the band.
Yeah, man. I was always the runt.
Yeah, but
still
you were
am.
probably always the most talented as well.
Sometimes, but I think it's one of those things where everyone kind of has their foundation in the band where they're doing something and kind of getting the shit done. So, but yeah, I would say around the time I was in
Would that have to be like
before I started 8th grade, I started playing covers with a bunch of friends I knew from my older brother. They were all in his grade, but I became friends with them obviously through them. But yeah, they were like playing Chietos covers and stuff and Devil Wears Prada covers and all that stuff.
Shit.
And I always wanted to do that. No one that I was friends with from my grade played music or, was good at an instrument or anything. So everyone that I could have played with was, 3-4 years older than me. So I think I was about to start 8th grade and finally got the invite from my brother or one of the friends or whatever, and got the call to come jam with them, play some covers. And yeah, I remember we filmed like a cover of Dogs Can Grow Beards All Over from Prada. It was like in night vision on some shitty camera.
It was awesome.
Oh, dude, it was so bad but so funny. But yeah, that was like the first
that
time I got
video is still on YouTube.
Oh, dude, I cannot find it, and it's buried somewhere in there. You can definitely find it, but.
So would you say your brothers had an influence on some different music tastes that you have?
Definitely. Growing up, my oldest brother, he was very helpful in helping me find, or even just showing me different bands in that kind of scene. I give him a lot of credit for showing me, Taking Back Sunday, all the emo bands I mentioned. I'm such a scatterbrained person. I can't even list bands right now.
What's the age difference between you guys?
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
So how old are you right now?
24.
24, so he's
29
right now. So my brother's 6 years older than me, and I know how much influence that he had on me with music. Like them being 6 years older, that's a significant age difference. So like they're already exposed to like all the cool shit, and like they already filter through all the bullshit rather than just like being the oldest child and you got to do all that shit yourself and figure out the things that you like.
Yeah.
And always like the younger brother wants to kind of fit in with the older brother and like what he likes. And obviously if the older brother likes it, then it got to be cool, right?
Yeah, on some level it definitely happens, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. But yeah, definitely. It was cool getting to hear new music that way. I remember he always had such a dope CD collection. I'd break into his room when he wasn't home, steal CDs or burn them. I remember one time when I was a kid, he had the Dude Ranch Blink-182 CD, and I couldn't get it because it was parental advisory. I remember I had a Walkman where you could like record a CD to a cassette.
Yeah.
Took the CD and burned it onto a cassette, and I was walking around the house listening to it, and he's like, what are you listening to? I told him. Told my mom on me. She made me erase over it. I was so pissed.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes brothers will do that, though.
Yeah, you know.
So, fast forwarding a little bit, when did you get in your first official band?
Probably 8th grade. I was 14. That was right around the time. It was like right after we started playing covers and just like jamming around as friends. And then started to take it a bit more seriously. Decided, hey, let's actually do this. Let's write our own music. Let's play some shows. Let's actually try and do this. Other people were doing it, and that was in the prime of MySpace being a thing. So a lot of us,
such an epic,
such an epic time,
an epic milestone in life. MySpace,
it's crazy. Like I don't know. I feel like I was on the ass end of it being my age, so I feel like people a little bit older got to experience it in such a crazier way, but people nowadays have no idea what that shit's even about.
People have
so
no
funny.
idea what MySpace was and how important it was and how, like, you would be at school, you would come home, get right on AIM.
Oh, yeah, AIM. Isn't that done now? Didn't they, like,
close
the server finally?
I think they just closed the server, so that was...
it's a sad day.
The end of an era right there. But MySpace was so epic because everyone had one. That's how people identified people. Like, I remember seeing certain people that I would follow on MySpace or be friends with on MySpace and see them out, whether it be at like the mall or like the Beehive, and they're like, oh, and you just say, that's whoever's MySpace name, because you don't really...
You don't know, really know who they were personally. Just you know of.
And it's like the people that you follow online, like that's why I kind of got into podcasting as well. It's like I listened to all this shit, and like I've been listening to it for so long that like you feel like you know the people. So like if you follow someone on social media, it's like you feel like you get to know them in a certain way.
Definitely.
Whether or not it's like actually who they are, you could kind of have an idea of the person from the stuff that they post. And like one of the coolest things about MySpace was you had your own song on the page. So like you could tell a lot about someone from like being able to choose one song to put on your MySpace page.
There's so much. Even like the way you could like encrypt all the HTML to make your own layout different. Dude,
so
I was obsessed.
Comments
I was obsessed. Like me and my buddies were so into, coding all that stuff to make it like look cool a certain way. Like, oh, let's put this background here. Let's like change the layout to be this way, and just like completely flopping it. So it made it fun in that sense where you could make it customizable to kind of represent yourself more, to express yourself more. Man. Like Instagram and all the stuff nowadays is cool, but it's, I don't know. I guess
you don't have as much freedom to.
It looks clean. It's sleek and professional looking, which is nice. But the freedom, like you're gonna say, with MySpace was fun.
Yeah, MySpace, you could have different backgrounds. You could have different colorways. You just had more freedom to express yourself in that way, like visually. And I thought that was probably one of the coolest things you could do.
Definitely.
But so after you got into that band, obviously it had to be Murder at the Matinee.
Yeah. Terrible first name. We can thank our drummer Ryan for that one.
No, that was the best. So you guys, how long did you say that went on, Murder at the Matinee?
Maybe like a year, and then it was the same band after, but we just decided to like change our name and just do like a bit of a style change. We didn't really know what we were doing. It was just like
just gotta find yourself.
Trial and error kind of deal. So we were doing it with that name and put out like a 5-song thing that sucked, and played a couple shows and did our thing. And
you guys performed in Battle of the Bands, right?
Yeah, that was like our first show. Well, our first show was in some girl's garage from our high school. And then 2 days later,
at that
you
show.
were
Megan Detweiler's.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
And then after that, like later that weekend, we played a show down in Southside Station Square of Pittsburgh and won some Battle of the Bands. And
so, you guys won that, right?
Yeah, you came out to that.
Yeah. That's what I figured.
It was one of those like cheesy ones where you had to sell X amount of tickets, and then like the crowd reaction was how they determined who won. But in
the crowd was family and friends. But that was an awesome time. I remember that like it was nothing. I still have the drumstick from Ryan, actually.
Holy shit! Actually, I was cleaning out my room probably, I don't know, at some point within the last like 2 years or something at my mom's house, and I found old ticket stubs from one of those Battle of the Bands, just like Gorilla Productions or some crap like that. Remember?
That's epic. Yeah, I do remember
that.
that.
I found those in like an old drawer.
I still have the Murder at the Matinee black shirt with the white print.
I have one of those too.
I have a trunk in my room that has all old shirts from growing up that like I just can't ever get rid of.
I can't part ways with any of them, dude. I have every band t-shirt I ever got.
I won't wear them anymore, but it's like I just can't get rid of them yet.
It's a nostalgic thing, man. I like to hang on to him as well.
It's like whenever your like parents have like an old Stone shirt or like the Doors or something
man.
like that. Like you want to keep that shit because like
it's memorabilia. You know, it's some kind of keepsake.
Now, do you think that this genre of music that like you're primarily like directed in is like gonna be as relevant as like Rolling Stones and the Doors and all that stuff is now?
No, but to some people, yeah, it's all perspective on that. I think to some people, it's always going to hold up in their mind and their heart or whatever. Whenever they're however old, looking back, like whenever I was 20, I was listening to this. Like,
I feel like I'll always listen to Chiodos and Census Fail and all that stuff.
I have all that shit. I had to like get it on vinyl and stuff. Like those are, like I said, those are the timeless records that I grew up with.
Absolutely.
They always hold up.
You could just listen to over and over again.
I think, but back to that question about like if they'll hold up, compared to other bigger bands like the Stones or the Beatles or whatever. Definitely not on that level, just because of how times have changed and how saturated music became.
Everything's so saturated now.
But I definitely think it's up to the listener or whatever who's gonna I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I'm kind of rambling.
That's all right. So after you guys changed Murder at the Matinee, you guys came out as Eyes Have Seen the Glory.
Yes, sir.
And that was how long? How long did you guys keep that going?
That probably went from like early 2008 to 2012 or like late 2008 to I'd say late 2008.
It went for a minute because I remember that was like our
last show was 2012. It
was a big time in life, like that whole music scene, going to shows, Octane.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it was it's still pretty interesting, like the whole idea of like the whole what would you call it? It wouldn't be emo necessarily, but it would be like
I don't want to say metal either, but like
it was like a mix between it all.
Everything, it's
it really is. It's
scene,
a mix of everything. It was just like a scene.
It's
like
just the way to put it.
Days, how people say it. So after Eyes Have Seen the Glory, you guys like kind of made some waves with all that. You put out some videos.
Yeah, man, that was the longest band I've ever been a part of. I was in that band, well, it started as Murder the Matinee, and then evolved to Eyes, and that ended. We played our last show in February of 2012.
Now with those guys, you got the opportunity to play with a lot of bigger name people.
Oh yeah, dude, we played so many shows. We played a lot of shows like at the Altar Bar with headlining bands and whatnot. A lot of bands get those opportunities to play for headliners and stuff in their city if you sell tickets and promote the show and everything. But it's always a cool opportunity to say, like, for example, I remember being in 10th grade and we opened for. We came as Romans, Asking Alexandria from first to last. That was such a cool show. Like, it was post Sonny Moore days, but still to say like, oh, my band opened for from first to last, and I was in 10th grade. It's kind of cool.
I remember that like it was. I'll never forget that ever. And whenever Danny Warsnop walked outside and was like, "You like whiskey?"
Oh,
we were all
dude.
like, "Yeah, fuck it, right?"
That was so.
Went downstairs and had some drinks with him, and
I took a shot with that dude when I was like 16. That's
insane
pretty
to think
cool.
about that, because like even though that band isn't like as huge as like people like the Stones and like all that, to us that was like a huge band for us. Like,
oh, definitely.
Like what was that CD, Stand Up and Scream or whatever?
Yeah.
Like that was, I remember listening to that all the time for that year and a half.
Dude, they were killing it in that time. They definitely knew what they were doing.
Now isn't he a country singer now?
He's
Danny
back
Warsnop?
in the band. They actually put out a new record and it's killer, dude.
Really?
They kind of went more into like a active rock kind of sound. They kind of matured a little bit. Went for a more adult kind of.
It's interesting to hear
like,
all the bands that are maturing. Like,
dude, a lot of bands are doing
Bring Me
that.
the Horizon is probably the most noticeable to me, because
easily
had from Pray for Plagues, where you had lyrics like "The sun goes down and so does she," to now you hear them on the X. You hear them. They play them at fucking Penguin games.
Yeah, dude.
It's pretty wild to hear that. First time I was sitting in PPG Paints and hearing Drowned. I think it was Drowned or The Throne.
Throne, yeah, I know they play that one.
It was like their big radio hit. So fast forward a little bit more, you were jumping around to a few different bands. You were in a few different more.
Yeah. Okay.
Projects.
Well, Eyes Have Seen the Glory started wrapping up. I was finishing my senior year of high school. The other dudes I was in the band with, They were already graduated as of like 3 years prior to me. So some of them were like trying out college. Some of them were just working, doing whatever. But it kind of just got to the point where all of us were on different pages, not really feeling it anymore. It being a local band and not having any funding or label support or anything. It's all money out of your pocket.
Yeah, hard to generate some shit, especially whenever we're all young kids in high school. And
exactly. But
we have shitty jobs, and the little bit of money that we do have, you got to think where you're going to fund it to, where you're going to exactly. And everything costs shit. Everything costs money, and to put out quality stuff, it's all money. Everything's money.
And that's the thing that sucks. Like with that coming into playing, being a big factor and all that, it makes people become discouraged and stuff, and people lose their thrive. They lose motivation. So we kind of just weren't feeling it on what to do or anything. So at that time, another band, I was friends with some of the people, and it was called Voices and Vessels. They needed a new guitar player. So I started playing with them. They were getting ready to put out go record an album or something. So helped write a little bit with them, just jammed around, started playing shows, worked with them.
That's
and
awesome.
That was all kind of starting for me around the time I was closing the door with Eyes. So I remember I was already in both bands whenever we did the farewell show for Eyes. So that was pretty cool just to have something new starting as I was working on something else closing. Because that first band, even though it wasn't successful on like a grand scale, it was still like my baby. It was like my first band.
Yeah, that's where you learn how to do some shit. That's where you sharpen your sword a little bit.
Exactly.
I mean, we all have like first episodes of podcasts like this one where you kind of
hell yeah, man,
sound like shit. Maybe you got to find your own voice and get into it the right way you want to do it. Whenever you listen to that old music that you did, what do you think about it? Do you love it still? Do you feel a nostalgic factor? Do you hate it?
It's crazy. I actually went back a couple weeks ago and jammed the first EP that we put under the name Eyes, and I was like, damn, this isn't as cool as I remember it being. Like,
but in that moment,
it was sick though. Like, it was like, holy shit, we're doing it. This is sick. Like, we tried to do that EP right by like getting professional artwork done, getting like paid for a professional MySpace layout and all this crazy stuff, like videos. We try to do the work.
Taking the first step to become an official recognized band.
Tried to get good recordings and stuff. For the time, it was good in our area. But like, it's funny. Like looking back now, I don't dislike it because that's what I was doing at the time. That's what I liked to do at the time, and it was cool. So I still like it on that level. But like looking back now, I'm listening as a 24-year-old with like some different perspective and like a different set of ears. I can see where, okay, I could see why maybe people didn't bite onto it. I could see why maybe it wasn't a good turnout or why it didn't, do as well as I thought. Yeah, but like I said before, trial and error. And it's, that's what I wanted to do at the time. We were just trying to play that early 2010, Prado,
heavy,
weak car, kind of sound. A lot of heavy synths and some breakdowns.
And it's awesome because like that whole time, it's like we all listened to pretty much the same shit. So like anytime we all hung out together, it was all like blasting old Chiodos, or like We Came as Romans, like all that old stuff like that. And I remember actually going to shows with you where we went to go see Like Moths to Flames.
Yeah, dude.
And it's wild because now you're a part of the band. So like, what's it like what's it feel like to grow up and kind of get into a band that you grew up on?
It's honestly surreal, dude. It's one of those things where it doesn't really hit you until you start. It's just like, oh, this is kind of happening. But at the same time, it was pretty casual though, because like I've known those dudes for a few years, and I've been friends with Chris for a while. Like he used to do graphic design work for a lot of my bands, so it wasn't like an awkward like I was thrown to the wolves in the sense of like industry wise, like, oh, I've never like toured that heavily. I've never been in a band on that caliber of like success with doing shit and actually being active. So in an industry standard, I was kind of thrown to the wolves of like learning the ropes, learning how to, function and do this on the road and play this and, get my skill together. But it was a pretty easy, transition to the band, because I knew some of the people already.
Yeah,
it was easy to make friends and just chill a little.
Strange and
it was comfortable. It was very welcoming.
That's good. So. That's good. That's definitely awesome.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild to think that we were sitting in the crowd together watching them at one point. And then fast forward a few years later, and where did you guys play? Was it Club Cafe or not Club Cafe?
Cativo?
Cativo over in Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there with Gogol, and we're just up there like looking like holy shit, like
that was last December, right?
Yeah, like that's Pish just up there fucking killing it. It's pretty wild,
weird, man.
So, being in that band, is it everything that you could have ever dreamed it to be?
Dude, definitely. It's one of those things. Well, let me rephrase that. Definitely, but you definitely will wake up from that dream at some point, in the sense of you get all the experience of like, oh, I've always wanted to tour on this level, and do this, do that, do this, and then you realize the other side of the coin of where it's like, okay, this is a job. This is also something you have to do. You see the requirements. You see the effort that's put into it. You see the actual sweat and tears that go into it. So it's like, it's still a dream and it's still amazing experiences to have. But at the same time, you actually, it's a give and take. You see what goes into it.
Any final product you get, like, you got to know that there's so much shit that goes into it, ups and downs.
Yeah.
And all the hard work and there got to be. I'm sure that there's going to be ups and downs.
Oh, definitely. Like, I don't want to sound like a buzzkill and be like, oh, like touring sucks or anything. No, it's awesome. I fucking love it. I wouldn't trade it for a world. But people, I think, have a misconception sometimes of like thinking it's like glamorous or it's something that it's not. And it's like,
rock star lifestyle, everything like that.
Yeah, like 2% of the time. The other 99 or the other 98% of the time, you're in a van sweating, smelling someone's farts. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But it's dope though.
So how did you end up in the band? Like, what was that process like?
Well, let me back up a little bit. So after Voices, I quit that for a minute. Well, for a while, because I was doing college and I was just kind of sick of it, just kind of falling apart. Different factors with that, but kind of stopped doing music in general for a minute. Focused on school because I was in college right after high school. Kind of just went into a rut with that, just like had no motivation to do anything with music, just wasn't feeling it, had no inspiration. I tried to start other bands with like a homie before. Didn't
Hard to
work.
find people that are like as dedicated.
Yeah,
or just as much.
Yeah, or even just like have their personal life together in the sense where they could invest a little bit into it or something. So you always have to be doing that if you want to be an active band. So I just couldn't find the right people, find the right thing to do. Just that worked out. But so I was kind of jaded and a little bit bitter to a degree for a minute, because I had other friends that were getting to go out and tour with other bands that were on labels and stuff. So seeing that like kind of made me feel a little crappy, because there's like, oh, I'm just here doing school and this and that. But other than that, I started touring with my friends in a band called Death in the Nara. They needed a merch guy, hit them up, because I met them through Eyes way back in the day. We used to play shows together. They were a Columbus band as well. So I did merch for them for a tour, and then shortly after, they needed a guitar player. Got to do a tour with them.
Where'd you tour with them at?
We did just a tour along the states. We went out west, so that was my first time going out west with the band, getting to tour California and all that. So that was sick. Got to see Vegas and stuff.
Absolutely.
Utah, Denver for the first time with them. So that was really cool. But it was very short-lived. It was a young band.
How old were you at this time?
I was 20, going on 21.
Oh, okay.
And then the other dudes were like 23, 24, my age as well. But yeah, that kind of imploded on itself. Band went different ways, and then me and some of the dudes tried another project afterwards called No Man and Island, put out a song or two. Nothing happened with that. Like nothing, no one latched on, no one bit onto it. Like it was an internet band. We tried to put the money into it, try to put some good songs out, try to make a thing, and it is what it is. But back to your main question. Sorry to go down memory road for a second, but
that's all right.
Yeah.
That's the best part about podcasts.
Yeah,
is
man,
like we can veer off a little bit.
Definitely. I know I get on the rabbit hole sometimes way too fucking deep, but
it's all right.
Anywho, so after that wasn't really doing anything. That band took a pause because our vocalist Dan. Actually, let me give you a crazy story because he's talked about it before on his Instagram. We were gonna do an EP, and he actually backed out because he started to get hit up by a band called Down and Dirty, because their vocalist Dennis was at the time getting recruited to join Asking Alexandria. Because that was the time Danny Warsnop quit Asking. That band poached some dude named Dennis from Down and Dirty. He was the vocalist for Asking for a minute. He was on that album called The Black they did.
Yeah, I know that is.
And then Dan was supposed to be with them. He did some demos for them, did a couple of songs like they were about to record, and like it was just some big some big thing happened where like that whole band imploded too. So Dan didn't even get to do that. So like Dan pulled out of that and everything. Just a fun fact, like with
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I
so that's
never knew
why
about
that band imploded. So it was like on pause because Dan was like, I'm going to try this and see if it happens. We'll see what goes on. And then we just didn't pick up again. It was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was getting out of that. I was still in school trying to finish up that. And then one day out of the blue, I just get a text from Chris saying, hey, do you know anyone that could fill in for a tour coming up soon that could play Moth stuff?
Chris is the lead singer for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah. And I just got a text saying that one day just out of the blue. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I could do that, man. And just got the details about it. And he's like, okay, I'll get back to you in a couple of days. Like, let me talk to the guys and see what's good. Yeah. And then heard back not too long later. He's like, hey, I talked to the guys. Can I give Greg your phone number? It's the drummer. He just wanted to ask some other questions about, just, I don't know, I guess me, just, what I can do or this or that.
So are you the youngest one in the band?
Yeah, 24. I'm 24. Everyone else is a couple years older than me. I think Greg's gonna be 26 soon. So
that's what's up.
Yeah, it's
like Moths to Flames, like we were talking about before. This genre of music is like not as mainstream as like some of the other shit you hear on the radio, but for being in this genre, you guys are pretty recognizable.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, the band's been around for 7 years. They put out, 3 records before I've been around, like 2 EPs.
Yeah.
So they've definitely had their name out there.
Because we've been listening to them. Like, I don't even know what year we started. Like, when?
As soon as they came out, man. I think it's one of those things where since they were a Columbus band, it was really easy for people in our
around our area
to grab onto those bands.
It.
I mean, that's how I knew Death in the Era. That's how I knew a lot of bands from that realm, just because Columbus is 3 hours west. It's seriously right next door to us. So it's a very tangible
close
scene for us to go to, or other bands to come, play at, or vice versa. So I think being close neighbors with that scene made it easy for us to find those bands. And it also seemed in that time, like early 2010s and stuff, a lot of bands that were getting signed were like from Columbus, like or even Ohio in general. Like a lot of bands started out there. I know Prado's from Ohio, like Hawthorne Heights back in the day.
Yeah,
a lot of Rise bands were out there. Attack, Miss May I. A lot of those bands were out that way.
That's what's up, though. So you got into like Moths to Flames, and you guys started touring around. Like, where have you toured with them at?
We did probably 3 full U.S. tours. We did a European tour. We hit the UK for 2 weeks. I got to go to Germany for a week.
That's dope.
Amsterdam for a day. We went to Paris.
How was that all out there?
Dude, unfucking real.
Yeah, it got to be unreal,
dude,
right?
So
I think Germany
unreal.
would be incredible to see.
Dude, it was
anywhere
amazing
out there, honestly.
It's one of those things where it's like, you're taking in so much, dude. It's just like one giant ball of an experience, because it's, I don't know, it's just day after day after day. It's like something new, somewhere new.
Yeah, and it got to be a crazy feeling to go play a show overseas.
It's also
in fucking
culture
Europe,
shock.
and
yeah,
like,
dude.
You have all these people that are still like singing your lyrics, like doing all this shit. Like, it got to be an insane feeling. Like, I couldn't even imagine that. It's like,
dude,
like we said before,
wild.
we grow up listening to that band, and then like fast forward 6 years, 7 years later, and you're in fucking Germany playing shows with like Moths to Flames. It's
dude,
awesome. Like,
it's so fucking
wild. I
wild.
couldn't be more pumped for you.
Thank you, man. I honestly never thought anything like that would have happened. Like, I remember getting the text message to go do those tours. I was so fucking excited. The first tour I did with them, I was out with them for practice, and we were shooting the shit. And Greg was telling me about that European tour and the U.S. one. It was a label tour. It was a Rise Records tour. And Memphis, Mayfire, Devil Wears Prada, and Silverstein were the headliners, and our band was opening. But at the time, Greg was telling me about the tour, how they were like finalizing it and about to announce it in a few months. And at that moment, I was like, "Damn, I hope they ask me to come out on that. That'd be so sick. It'd be so sick." I was just thinking that in the back of my mind the whole time. And then
you
finished
didn't know
up.
for sure if you were like,
because at that point I had just came into town, was practicing. This is like day one. Like, oh hey, you're gonna fill in for us, cool. But yeah, so after that first tour I did with them, we had some time off, and I remember I was chilling. I was actually out in California for my birthday with a couple of my buddies that moved out there, and I woke up the one day, I was just chilling, look at my phone, get a text from Greg, "Hey dude, want to come on those fall tours with us?" And I was like, God fucking damn,
yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, dude, I was so stoked. I was like, I'm going to fucking
doing
Europe,
nothing
dude.
else, just sitting around. Might as well go tour everywhere else with you.
Dude, I was so excited.
So what were some of your favorite places that you ended up going?
In the States, I would definitely say Portland was one of my favorites. I just went to Seattle for the first time on this last tour we did. That was awesome. I did not get to see too much of the city, unfortunately, just because of like timing and everything. But like what I did get to take in was awesome. We got to check out some of the dispensaries and see what that was like up in the West Coast.
That would probably be awesome out
dude,
there.
it's an amazing time.
What a time to be alive, right?
Definitely, 2018.
So overseas, what was some of the coolest things that you did over there?
Shit, dude.
Any things that stick out that you were pumped about? Like
Definitely.
seeing Amsterdam had to be
dude. That was my
unreal.
favorite day by far. By far, we woke up early that day. Probably around like 8 or 9. It's actually funny. That was the second day of tour when we were in Europe.
Yeah.
I brought 2 jackets with me. The first jacket I left in someone's car when we were getting dropped off at the airport. Forgot it. Second jacket, I lost it in the venue the day before. So the first day of the show,
God.
I think someone stole it, honestly. It was just a fucking black jean jacket. And I left it somewhere backstage or like in the green room or something. And I was looking for it the rest of the night afterwards. Gone. So I was jacketless. So day 2 was Amsterdam. Luckily, woke up that morning, found an H&M, got a jacket that was right next to the venue.
Yeah.
Started off the day that way. And obviously in Amsterdam, you could smoke hella weed, do whatever you want. So we found some like cafes where you can get coffee, some, fresh squeezed orange juice, and bought some weed, started going to town, man.
That's awesome.
It was cool. You could like rent bongs in the one spot you could go to.
You rent them?
Yeah. Like they would give you a bong. You put a 10 euro deposit down and they give you a bong, maybe like a foot tall or, maybe a foot and a half. And
wow.
They put like napkin around the mouthpiece of it, so that way you're not getting germs on it. They'll put like a gum band around it, so that way it stays on. You can
That's
rip it
crazy.
from there. Give them the bong back, you get your money back.
That's nuts. I never knew that they had things like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think the shop we went to is called the Dolphin.
The Dolphin.
Yeah, so it was like a lounge, dude. You could like go downstairs and like chill in the smoke session.
Probably an insane just environment.
Dude, it's cool. Like you could just chill there and just smoke with your friends. Like people were like packing spliffs and stuff. Like do whatever you want.
So what's the music scene like over there? Like is it as crazy as it is over here?
I honestly don't even know how to comment on that, just because
It's got to be apples and oranges, I know.
it's definitely apples and oranges. It's also like a hit and miss sometimes. Some shows we had good crowd reactions. Some shows people just stood there and watched. And like when you have shows like that, it's hard to tell if like they're actually just trying to watch because they're trying to take it in. Like I know some of the people probably weren't aware of like who our band was or like, but sometimes people actually are into it, headbanging or this or that. So it's definitely much different crowds overseas compared to the U.S. But even in the U.S., we still have those days where people are just kind of taking it all in rather than
miss.
Yeah,
because you got different areas of the United States that have different styles of music and everything, which is definitely understandable. So being in Like Moths to Flames, you guys touring around everywhere. Who were some of your favorite bands to tour with? Like, I just heard you say you toured with like Silverstein, and I know that was another huge band for us growing up.
Dude,
So,
honestly,
had
touring
to be nuts.
Dude, touring with Silverstein and Prada it's honestly an honor. Like I never thought I would have done that. I honestly think in like 2008 or something. I think you went. Remember Club Zoo?
Absolutely.
Did you go to the show in like 2008? It was Prada and Silverstein headlining.
100%
And I forget who opened, but I think I was in like 7th or 8th grade. I went to that.
It wasn't Kill Switch. No, Kill Switch was Parkway Drive.
Yeah.
Whenever Parkway opened, and the lead singer of Parkway Drive was just like profusely vomiting, like all over the place, but still
I was
just
not for that
fucking
show.
killing it. It was insane. That was probably one of the most memorable shows that I've been to. So I mean, like that brings us up to like where we are today. So what's next for you guys?
Shit, dude. Well, in early November, we put out a new record called Dark Divine. So we're just kind
Dope
of
video too.
Yeah, man.
Some awesome
Thank you.
visuals.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, we're just kind of trying to let that record grow a little bit more. Just let people keep hearing it. Just get some new listeners. Get some shit going on that. We're definitely trying to keep our touring schedule looking good for 2018. We're playing the waiting game right now, just trying to see what's good with tours.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a weird time for music, especially, we talked about like music, like our music scene specifically. I think with, it's the last year of Warped Tour this year.
Yeah, that's
so
nuts. That's like another that's like almost like a MySpace type
dude,
deal.
It's crazy.
It's like, that's another thing. I remember going probably since like, 05, 06?
My first Warped Tour was 08, I think, or 07.
Yeah, I think I went to go see Chiodos in 2007, and that was probably one of the most insane shows that I've ever been to in my life. It's like Chiodos was just about to come out. We were all sitting there waiting. It was just hot as fuck, like always. And then, like, as soon as they walked out on the stage, like these storm clouds started rolling in. And like, I swear to God, I don't know if it was just like me, just like punching up the moment, but like as soon as they fucking strummed that guitar, it started pouring down rain.
Dude, I think Skaggs told me about that way back.
It was
in the day.
Seriously like I will never ever forget it. I got chills talking about it.
Dude,
right
that's
now.
awesome, man. And that's such a epic band to have that happen to, especially in that time frame.
Absolutely, and it's nuts because like music, it plays such a big part in everyone's life. I feel it's like I said, you hear a song and you immediately like it jogs your memory to go back to like certain times, certain places, who you were with, and it's awesome. Like that's
dude, it's
that's
a great way to do some time
music.
traveling. You know, do some mental time traveling, put on a song, just go somewhere else. It seriously works that way, dude.
I wanted to ask you though. I saw you put out like a music video with like Moths to Flames, and it seemed to be like, was that your first professional music video that you guys did?
That was
that you were involved in.
Definitely the first like professional one. Like I've done local music videos with people around town for older bands, but that was like the first like legitimate like set I was on with like real production team. Dude, it was fucking surreal. Like, I mean, to some people it's probably like just it's another day at the office or whatever, but like for me that was cool because I'm just some fucking weirdo from Elizabeth, PA, south of Pittsburgh. Like, so it's cool to be on a set and for a video shoot.
Where were you guys at?
We were at outside of LA, about 2 hours. It was a dry lake bed called El Lake Mirage.
It looked insane.
Dude, it was sick though. But yeah, we got out there at like 6 a.m. Like the production team met us. It was so professional. It was awesome. Like they had like coffee and like a catering table for us, and took good care of us. Like gave us water
and shit like that.
There's some babes there doing the hair and makeup for us. Yeah, man, had some good looking chick playing with my hair that morning. It was
awesome.
Nice.
So how many times did you guys have to like play that? Like how long did it take to film that whole thing?
Hours. I don't know. I'd probably say. I don't even know. I'm going to ballpark and say 30 times maybe, but then maybe more, maybe less. Like there's takes where it was just Chris doing stuff. There's takes, we all had individual takes for a second. There's takes where it's all of us minus Chris,
Definitely came out dope.
Yeah, they did takes where it's like they did drone shoots, so like they would be filming with a drone, flying that all over the place.
Yeah,
actual different cameras and whatnot.
Drones add so much more shit to like
it was wild.
A whole different feel to videos now. Like
for real, man, it's insane. It was so windy out there. Like we had to like even stop for a second because the drone couldn't even take off at times. They had to like wait to like let it calm down a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's definitely awesome. One thing that I was curious about personally is like, where did the name Like Moths to Flames come from? Do you know offhand?
That's definitely a better question for Chris, but I think it comes from a Thrice song.
Okay.
I should have mentioned them a long time ago. That's also a band I loved growing up.
That's a band that like I've listened to as well.
It's also a band that our band likes, but I think that's where that came from.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. Well, I mean, it's pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. I do have like I started, obviously this is my first like real episode, so I'm just trying to iron everything out, but I wanted to do a different, whatever you'd call it, excerpt or a different section, but I wanted to do something called Desert Island Questions.
All right.
Like the episode from The Office, whenever you say you could take whatever to a desert island.
Wait, is that the one where Angela said she'd bring the Bible and then she wouldn't bring anything else?
No other books. So starting off, you get to choose 3. If you were stuck on a desert island, what are 3 movies that you would pick?
Oh, shit. Haggard.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko. Shit, I need something funny.
I know it's a hard question.
Damn. Shit. All right, Haggard, Donnie Darko. United States of Leland. That's not funny, but I'm gonna go for that.
That's all right
one.
though. Those are movies that like you got to be able to watch over and over again. I could definitely watch Donnie Darko over and over again. I could definitely watch Haggard over and over again.
That movie's so ridiculous it never gets old.
Rest in peace. Done.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Hero. As far as books, if you got to choose 3 books to take on there, this is a different question because I know some people don't read as much. I see you got a good library up there on your shelf.
Starting it. 3 books to take with me. I would take Scale, Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die wrote that. Dope book.
It was insane.
Very entertaining.
Yeah,
I would take that.
good.
I would take there's like a book I like called A New Earth. It's just kind of like about your consciousness and just like different ways of thinking how to live and stuff. So that's always a cool book to go through, kind of pick your brain a little.
For sure.
And then, I would probably pick something weird. There's this one book I had started reading called Children of the Matrix.
Oh, yeah? What's
Talks
that
about some weird conspiracy theories of just like reptilians and aliens and
all
like
kinds of wild
how
shit.
they interact with our
Some
world.
Alex
And
Jones shit.
exactly, that kind of weird shit. And then, I never finished it because it's like 800 pages and the dude footnotes everything like an insane person. So maybe if I was on a desert island, I could finally finish reading it.
Absolutely. All right. And if you got to choose 3 albums to take with you, I know that has to be the hardest question.
That's definitely the hardest. 3 albums, I would say To Live as Brutes from Castle Grayskull. That'd be my metal album. I'd probably bring Son, I Loved You at Your Darkest from As Cities Burn.
Okay.
Be my post-hardcore album. And then just for some good grooves and some good moods, I would take Self-Titled Album from 1975.
That's dope too. You were actually the one who showed me 1975.
Dude, excellent band.
That is a good band. That's just a good vibe.
Awesome vibe, dude.
Last question, though. This is probably the most interesting question to me. If you could have a conversation with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would it be?
Only one person?
One person. You get to sit down and have a conversation with them. It could be alive or dead. I know it's on the spot. That's why I think that this is interesting.
Damn. On the spot. You got to give me a second.
That's fine.
You might have to cut out some of this wait time.
That's fine.
Alive or dead? Dude, this is like a fucking curveball.
Ain't it a curveball? This is what. This is why I call them desert island questions. Just because like you can't sit and think about it for too long.
Could it be fictional or non?
Yeah, it could be anyone.
Could be a made-up character.
Anyone.
Randy Marsh.
Randy Marsh
from South Park.
That's a good answer for sure. Well, man, I really appreciate you for doing this. I wanted to keep these episodes somewhat short. We're right at around 45 minutes. And I think it went really well for being the first episode. I'm having you, you're my first one, and I'm pumped to have you on.
Hell yeah, dude. Pumped to be here. Glad to see you doing podcasts again. Shit's awesome.
Now, take a minute, plug anything you like, your band, your Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to do.
Shit, well, if you want to check out some new music, if you like metal or post-hardcore, screamo, emo shit, check out Dark Divine from Like Moths to Flames. I'm sure you'll find something on there you like. You can peep my boring Instagram. I don't really post anything. At Pishney. Shit, I don't know. Go to Threads on Carson. Check out my boy Barry down there.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you need an Uber in the city, request your boy. I'm starting to Uber drive, making that side money.
Dude, there's a lot of people doing it now. I'm
dude, it's awesome.
Well, man, it was great talking to you. I can't wait to see what's next for you guys.
Dude, for sure. Hope to talk soon again. Get some other stories out there. Bullshit some more.
Absolutely. Definitely have you back on. I think this went well.
Hell yeah, dude.
For everyone else, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, rate, and leave some feedback so I can know what I'm doing well, what I could do better, what you like, what you don't like. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, I Call You Right Back Podcast, Instagram, I'll Call You Right Back, and Twitter, ICYRB Podcast. Or you could email me at I'llCallYouRightBack@gmail.com. All these will be in the description down below. And I appreciate you guys listening, and thanks again, and I'll call you right back.